Welcome to Session 2 of Reimagining Creativity in the Classroom. I still have my panel of experts with me. Meredith and Jordan are secondary educators, and Daphne brings us the view from the elementary room. Today, we're delving into barriers to creativity in the classroom. And there are a couple of big ones that were mentioned in Session 1, standardized testing and structured curricula. Bringing down these barriers could be difficult. What other solutions are there? Would including teaching creative thought in our educational standards be helpful? Would it be enough? Are our teacher preparation courses effective in helping educators teach creative thinking? Could they ever be? Is micromanagement of educators really the answer? Is micromanagement of students any better? Emphatically, no. Ultimately, there are two natural enemies to creativity, and thus to real learning, which abound in education: routine and fear, both of which are spawned by micromanagement. This bodes poorly for educators who are forced into test prep and structured curriculum and face performance-based evaluations with trepidation. Teachers fear repercussions as they strive to deal with trauma-ridden students who swear at them, bully one another, and just refuse to work. And amongst all of those issues are the myriad of initiatives educators have to attend to every single day. Jordan, our middle school panelist, has more than 50 tasks she has to attend to every day. Personally, I'm required to use more than 20 apps each day to track lessons, email, standards, scores, grades, behaviors. It has been reported that teachers make more than 1,500 decisions every day. It's exhausting. But teachers have their hands tied. Along with too many standards, too many campus initiatives, and performance evaluations that, for many educators, are tied to student scores on standardized tests, educators have little incentive to figure out what it means to nurture creativity in the classroom. It simply isn't a priority. The creative spark is snuffed out by the monumental burdens and rigid structures present in today's classroom. According to one researcher, there is no space in standardized curriculum for questioning the status quo, following one's passion, or swimming upstream. It's just completely overwhelming for both teachers and students. A single educator has up to 80 standards to teach in a single year. If a student has 5 classes, that adds up to 400 standards they have to learn in a single year. Even kindergartners are taking standardized testing. Goodbye finger painting. No wonder students want the easy way out, wanting educators to tell them the answers so they can give them back. No wonder students have become apathetic in the midst of the spiral of learn it, test it, reteach it, test it, repeat ad infinitum from a very young age. Daphne, as an elementary educator, what's your viewpoint?
It comes from the top at my school. Administrators want us to engage the students. At the same time, they want really high test scores. So those two goals for teachers don't always match. Administrators definitely want to see growth. And the way that they think they will see growth is by using more and more structured reading. We just got a much more structured reading program this year where they're telling us to follow along and do the articles and have the kids do the worksheets in the workbook. And so that doesn't have creativity. We're starting a new reading curriculum. So this year in particular, language arts, they really want us to do it with integrity. And to do it with integrity, there's no time to do anything else.
Man, you know, Daphne, I've heard and read about exactly that mindset. And I believe that students have learned that stepping outside of an assignment's parameters is akin to failure. Jordan, what about you? What do you think?
I absolutely agree. Within the constraints of traditional schooling, students are going to go right to what's comfortable so they can get the grade they want rather than being adventurous, because being adventurous can be risk-taking. And some of these kids are so conditioned into, I need an A, I need a B, I need an A, I need a B. You know, there's no room for trying something different in their brains.
Agree. There's no wiggle room to allow creative learning to play out in the classroom, and the kids know it. They've learned to expect that everything they need to know has been planned in advance. Over-planning in the classroom is possible because the standards have already been set. But that in itself is not the problem. The problem arises when a set mindset or a set curriculum does not allow for detours or imagination or for trying something different. The problem arises when a rigid curriculum and assessment paradigm prevents recognition and acknowledgement of student discoveries along the way, thus quashing student curiosity and devaluing student contributions to new ways of thinking, stifling those very qualities that would enhance student success in a future workforce whose job descriptions have yet to be written. Meredith, what are you thinking?
I'd like to emphasize here that if the students don't embrace the growth mindset or embrace productive struggle, we're not going to get anywhere. I don't know how you teach to the students who are honestly just blatantly, I don't care.
Meredith, I see it every day. Let's think about it this way. Think outside the box creativity implies a lack of constraints. At the same time, standards, testing, structured curricula are constraints. It just seems like an impasse, doesn't it? So how are teachers supposed to reconcile these conflicting points of view? How are they supposed to fight student apathy? Some researchers have provided a possible answer in 2 words: creative subversion. I kind of like the sound of that. It sounds a bit naughty and might be perceived as by administrators as such. Creative subversion includes creative practices used by educators that are not exactly part of the scripted curriculum or part of a required standard. Creative subversion is creativity done in spite of what is dictated. You're supposed to teach the theory of plate tectonics? Students are to define terms like asthenosphere, plasticity, and trace plate movement on a paper map. Great! But there's not enough there to engage their imaginations. Now think oobleck. Oobleck is a great tool for teaching about plasticity and non-Newtonian solids. Making oobleck is not part of the lockstep curriculum, but it is a way to subvert stodgy plans into engaging work without sacrificing what the standards tell the teacher to focus on. In essence, it's about slowing down the curriculum and making room for digression and improvisation. Improvisation? Really? You know, the best improvisational comedians can think on their feet. They have an innate awareness of the human condition that makes it possible for them to envision a dozen unexpected scenarios for any situation. For educators, improvisation is much the same, with an added component that some researchers call connoisseurship. Educators must have an innate awareness of what their students need and what they will respond to. This awareness is developed as they establish trusting relationships with their students. Connoisseurship means also that the educator has an in-depth knowledge of the subject matter. This allows the educator to share the nuances of that knowledge with their students to engage interest and to pivot quickly when creative moments arise in the classroom. For example, students in my earth science class were graphing solar cycles. I knew there was a northern lights moment the night before that many of my students experienced. Connections? You bet. An increase in northern lights activity can actually be predicted by solar cycles, and the students were able to predict from their graphs that the current solar cycle is nearing its peak, hence more northern lights. Good relationships and content knowledge made this conversation and this connection to real life possible. Was this a planned part of the lesson? No, it wasn't. Was it improvised? Absolutely. Creative moments like this, where new insights are made, can happen suddenly, without long drawn-out plans and models and to-do lists. When inspiration strikes, students need to have the choice to explore those ideas. The planning can come later. Researchers from a while ago suggest another method for subverting standardized classroom requirements. They call it lesson unplanning. Lesson unplanning translates to the removal of some of the guardrails for teachers and students. Let's ask a question that no one has asked before and look up the answer and see where it leads. Let's give students some autonomy for choosing the learning pathways that they want to follow. Of course, the teacher still has to retain the responsibility of ensuring that appropriate criteria are set for an activity, and also for providing students with enough domain knowledge to support the work. However, that That leaves lots of room for students to embrace uncertainty and embrace productive struggle. Sounds like fun to me. So why would some students rather hug a porcupine than tackle problems that have more than one possible answer? Why are students so reluctant? It's all about the productive struggle. Meredith, I know you had some thoughts on that. What do you think?
Well, there are opportunities that exist for creativity in the classroom, but I'm faced with learned helplessness. It's through the roof. Productive struggle is lost, right? They shut down if they have to struggle.
Oh, I see you're wanting to chime in here, Jordan.
I agree. While there are opportunities that exist for creativity in the classroom, I'm being faced with a lot of learned helplessness. Productive struggle is lost. They shut down if they have to struggle. Everything has become so scaffolded now that the productive struggle is lost, and I don't know how to get it back.
Yeah, it's a dilemma. Uncertainty is uncomfortable. Doing what's always been done is simple and it feels safe. However, what is not safe is his willingness to jeopardize a student's future by holding on to an obsolete past. Paradigms must shift. Some researchers have stated that over time, students are simply contaminated. That's a great word for it. Contaminated with the idea that every question has only one right answer. Once that mindset is ingrained, it leads to the development of students who are fearful of failure, students who do not have the confidence, resilience, or creative thinking skills to dream up unique answers to complex problems when given the opportunity to do so. Oh, Daphne, you'd like to add something?
Yes, that's exactly it. They don't want to be wrong. They just want to sit there and have you give the answer. And it takes a lot to get them to risk an answer because they don't want to be wrong, even in a small group. It's really interesting because I would say that when they feel it's high stakes, kids aren't willing to make a mistake.
You're right. And sometimes making mistakes is what it's all about. Well, think about that. That's all for this session. In closing, I'd like to issue another creative challenge to viewers and listeners to encourage creative practice. These challenges are for your own personal experience. If you'd like to share what you create, please send evidence via the QR code provided, and your work will be posted alongside the work of other viewers and listeners on my WordPress site, Cultivating Creative Thought. Here's your creative challenge. Close your eyes, reach in your backpack, bag, or junk drawer. Pick up the first thing you touch and dream up 3 new uses for it. Have some fun. Till next time.